This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
Oh, yeah. So you probably want to get yours up a little bit closer.
Okay.
You can grab just...
All right.
Yeah.
And co-host Marnie Winfield.
I got nothing.
Well, you know, let's talk recovery.
Is that, are we supposed to finish that sentence or something?
It is the 19th of April, 2022. My name is Corey Winfield. Marnie is still boycotting the podcast, I believe. We'll have to talk to her maybe on Thursday about that. But joining me, though, very special guest, I have Hunter Taylor and Christian Powell. They are of Lifeboat Addiction Recovery Cast. And last month, I believe it was last month, maybe it was longer, I was on their podcast. So now they're coming on my podcast to answer the hard-hitting questions that, you know, I always ask of people in times of uncomfortableness.
That's what's up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. What's up, guys?
Hello.
How's your producer doing? Is he okay? Like, you didn't fire him yet, did you?
The kid works for peanuts.
Okay, good.
He's on the brink, though. He's on his last leg at this point.
I have a question for you guys both, but I'm going to ask it later. That's the big tease. You guys are from Lansing.
Yep.
Born and raised?
Nope.
No. Where were you born at, Hunter?
I'm from Indianola, Iowa.
Okay, never heard of that.
Yeah.
That's right. You did tell me that.
Remember co-host called me the Neanderthal corn folk from Iowa, I believe is the exact terminology you use. But yeah.
In front of people. Fact.
Wow.
During a board meeting, actually, I think is where that came out at. So
okay. Sometimes you gotta do it. It's better than what he could have said.
Yeah. I could go after him. I'll go hard in the paint.
DMX quotes. I heard you're good at those.
In the words of the great American philosopher DMX, where my dogs at?
And that's Christian. How Christian, you're the host, right?
I am a co-host. I'm not the only host. We are co-parenting our podcast.
So Hunter, you're not the host?
it's pretty much the host. Yeah.
Okay. So Hunter's the host. Christian, you're the co-host.
That's going in the court hearings.
Okay, I just want to figure out who's got the power here.
I think Hunter has all the power. I have magnetic personality, so people just naturally assume. Plus, the beard is intimidating enough. They're like, that guy knows what's going on.
He's taller than me, too, so that adds to it as well.
It looks like you own a bunch of guns, Christian.
I don't own any firearms, but I don't oppose them.
Hunter, I don't think you own a gun.
You're sadly mistaken. You got that completely backwards in your reading there.
And see, we're doing this on Zoom, so I can see the guys, and you know, Hunter's beard is trimmed neatly. It is a manly beard, and Christian, he looks like the guy that you'd see walking in the store and be like, "Kids, get over here! Kids, come on, let's go."
I got that homeless underpass look.
Yeah, like the hat's half cocked, you know. You're just like, I put it on, whatever, man. You know, the beard
kind of feels like
there.
If you were to see Christian in a movie, he'd be saying something along the lines of "Hombre man," you know, something like that.
Yeah, something like that, or you know, like, honey, don't give him money. Now he'll just use it for drugs. Like, you're probably right.
His favorite Survivor member is Rupert.
Facts, bro.
Nah, you guys are cool though. The podcast, when did you guys start it? It's called Lifeboat Addiction Recovery Cast. How'd you come up with that name? You're like, let's get like a really wordy name and then run with it. I mean, you told me about it before on your podcast, but
yeah. So Lifeboat ARC, as we like to call it. So Lifeboat is the actual name of the nonprofit that we kind of that we both run. We both, what would you say, lightly manage the nonprofit. The rest of it is just like, I mean, kids in a candy store. It's going every which way all the different times. So we just kind of step in and give our opinion, unsolicited most of the time. And one day, like as the nonprofit was starting, it was beginning of COVID, wasn't it? So we had just started at the beginning of COVID in like April of 2020, I think. So we just said, let's do a podcast. And we, as Hunter likes the romantic story is like, I mentioned it one time, like in 2019, so like mid 2019. And then one day I was just like, all right, so I got the recording equipment. We're going to do this, this, and this. Let's record we got to record the start of it. And he wasn't about it. And then he heard our intro and he's like, all right, I'm getting kind of jazzed about this, man. Let's do this.
That's pretty much exactly how it went down. I was just, I was informed of it one time, possibly. And I told him I don't really have the time. And then the next thing I know, he's just like, I got the equipment. We'll start recording Monday. All right, let's do this.
Nice. The action guy.
Yeah.
So Christian, you're the guy you put your foot down and said, this is what we're doing. You know, we can sit here and talk about it all day. That sounds good. You know, how many times have people done that? And it was kind of wise of you, Hunter, at the time to say, I don't have time for that, because it is time consuming. Like a lot of people come to me and they're like, hey man, help me start a podcast. I'm like, sure. And they get a couple of shows and then I see their podcast doesn't happen anymore. I'm like, okay, if you say you're going to do it, man, you got to do it. And then you got to make a schedule. When are you going to do it? You know, every Saturday, every Friday, every once a month. I mean, whatever you're going to do, stick with it, you know, and you have to be regular with it, man. We
learned that really quick. I mean, we didn't probably find our voice until we're on our 6th season now. And we probably didn't find our voice until the 5th one. Like, cause we did 3 podcasts a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for an entire month. And then like we were doing hour-long podcasts each one. So you think about that, and it's like what, 12 hours a month that you have to commit to this, just recording. Then you got to edit, do all that other stuff. So eventually just cut it down to like 30 minutes. And then Friday, every once in a while, we'll hit it. But we reserve Fridays for like interviews and stuff. So it's certainly a trial right now. Like we both have to get, our schedules are so complicated right now that we basically say, okay, like schedule 3 weeks out. We're sitting down and we're recording for like 4 hours just to get some of the material out. Like today we were supposed to do that. And then it fell by the wayside because I had to do jury duty. So it's like, well,
screws up everything. Yeah. Now, how did you get out of it then?
So we basically are going to record in the next like week, and then we will record probably an entire month's worth of podcasts, Mondays and Tuesdays. And then we have a couple of interviews lined up, and there you go.
I mean, how did you get out of jury duty? I mean, nobody wants to be on.
I got there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Actually, I got there 7:30. Roll call was at 8. I sat in a chair until 11 in the afternoon, and then I got a break, and then until 12. So a 10-minute break, and then until 12, and then they let me go. And I'm not called for tomorrow, but I still might be called for, Thursday and Friday.
I just say, I don't believe in law. Mm-hmm. And I go on this Jesus rant usually.
For those of you who don't know,
man's laws are different.
Yeah, we had we were talking podcast, and that's what happened in the courtroom. I just laid into like, I believe in Jesus Christ and God's laws supersede man's laws. And then ultimately he ended up having to stay there anyways. Like, that's what you get.
That's what's up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. You got to hit him. And you can always go with, I can only eat steak. Don't be trying to feed me no peanut butter bologna sandwich. I had enough bologna sandwiches while I was in jail. I don't need any more. I only eat steak. So you're going to feed that to me. My doctor will tell you that. I need my dog with me because it's a freaking therapy dog. I have a therapy cat.
You guys provide breaks for me to smoke my recreational marijuana?
Because because I need to eat my CBD gummies. Freaking out here, man. Did you hear what that guy did? Oh, I read all about it in the paper. There you go. I'll get you out of jury duty. And if not,
right? All you want is like, I either like get it to me where it's like quick decision, an hour presentation, we're done, or give me the murder trial of the century. I don't want anything in the middle. I want something where I'm going to have to be, put away for a while, where I really got to think about things, or I want something where I'm done in an afternoon.
I just want to ask the prosecution one thing and the defendant one thing. Let me start with the prosecution. Why are you after this man? Defendant, did you fucking do it?
What you do?
There we go.
Did you do?
Either prosecution's going to be like, God damn, you got me. And defendant might be like, I'm off. And then he might be like, yeah, Corey, I did it. Wouldn't lie to you. All right.
That's the thing that blows me away too, right? It's like, okay, let's start from the assumption, because there was like, they're innocent until proven guilty. It's like the very fact that they said that they're not guilty in here means that if they aren't guilty, they're telling the truth. If they really are guilty, they're going to for sure lie about it. So what are we doing here?
Put your hand on the Bible. I don't believe in your Jesus and your God. Like, that doesn't do nothing for me.
Like the man who just murdered someone's really going to just take that oath real nice and seriously,
Bring family members in, like threaten to castrate him or something.
Mm-hmm.
Swearing this boy's balls. I know it's your only son and all, but if we catch you lying.
I'm going to, if they do call me, I'm going to try to hit them with like, I don't believe in these laws. I'm what they would call a traveler. All right. So I don't believe that any of your stuff governs me. All right. I'm a free citizen.
Start explaining to him the law of the land, the maritime law, and airspace law. Start explaining that to him, break it down real nice for him.
Or just freak him out, but like, I'm from the future. And I'm here to actually stop this trial from happening because this man's going to get out in 25 years and it's going to cost the county about $48 million to pay him for his time that he's going to serve, that he didn't do it. Actually, the guy who did it is just right outside, man. Like if you want to go grab him, and I'm just here to prevent all this, man.
Or better yet, I did it. It's like, sir, we found it in his possession. No, he didn't. I did it.
Couldn't do it. I did it, man.
Did a juror confess to a crime?
Like before I say any more, I want my lawyer present. They'll be like, but you're a juror. I'm like, yeah, but I just need my lawyer. Get him in there and be like, I did it. Well, I didn't say I killed him. I just said I did it. Yeah, they'd be like, get out of here. Tempted.
They're like, anybody? Do you know the judge? Do you know this person? Do you know that person? Do you know anybody here? It's like, I don't know, probably. I mean, I've seen them.
They know me. I got a podcast.
I mean, I'm not. And then they're like, "Oh, what's your podcast called?" I'd be like, "I mean, I'm not like Joe Rogan reach, but we're doing okay." Like, just trying to explain myself. I use the trial as some free publicity.
Yeah, we talk about common sense, so we have different listeners than Joe Rogan, and we play DMX.
As they're pulling me out for contempt of court, like, listen to us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
I want a jury trial. I did not do it. Just start using fake accents. I did not do it. They're harassing me.
I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, sir, where were you born? None of your business.
Do you know where you were born, Holmes?
So you just start saying like famous movie quotes from court movies, you know, like you can't handle the truth, and go from there.
Objection.
Sure. He had me at home. That's Jerry Maguire. That's not a court movie.
Just asking questions. I'll be raising my hand over there now. Hey, who planted that? Was that the cop or what cop? What officer planted that stuff?
Dude, I didn't know this about jury duty. Like they said this. I'm like, well, that's not a good idea for anybody in this room, including myself. They're like, so yeah, if any of the jurors have any questions for any of the people that are sitting on the stand, you just raise your hand and the clerk will come over to you and they will get the question from you and ask it. I'm like, who thought this was a good idea? Like, there's no people aren't lawyers. Like, don't.
We'd have some, man. I wish all three of us were on, and Noah too, all four of us. I wish we were all on a jury duty together because we play some 217 games. Like if we bet on something, like I bet that this one does this. And if I won the bet, then I would make like Hunter, you'd have to ask a question. You have to raise your hand and be like, what color panties was she wearing? You know, it's just some dumb shit.
Do you or do you not believe in Bigfoot?
Let's start there and work our way back.
I need to know. Just over there, just taking notes like a motherfucker. Just notes.
And then he's like, the guy's like, I do believe in Bigfoot. He's like, let the record show that Bigfoot is real. Given this court case.
Or you just
this circuit court, it does have legal standing in the federal circuit.
Just draw down on your map. You're like, okay, I gotta ask a question. You believe in Bigfoot?
Your Honor. Oh my God.
Juror number 12 wants to know, believe in Bigfoot. And you're like over there writing. And you're, that explains a lot. You used to keep writing. And you're just like, oh, that would freak him out. Oh, the person on trial, like, what the mistrial? Nope. Can't do this. That'd be fun. That would be so much fun. But I just don't have time either. So I would make an excuse maybe.
All I see is a chance to get out of work where work cannot fault you for getting out of work. That's all I'm saying. I can sit up there, listen to a couple guys talk. They pay me for my time missed.
But
like, it sounds good.
That's the thing is like, if it's salary, for sure. But if you're doing hourly, dude, I got $15 for today. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? It probably doesn't even cover gas for half these people.
And the work is still there. Like for me, like I'd still have to do it myself. Like nobody's going to come in and be like, let's finish Corey's work for him. No, they're just like, Corey's shit's on hold for 2 weeks. Imagine if you got sucked into like one that was like a year long and you're just like, oh my God.
Ugh. Unless it's like a big case, like some, what is it, like some Manson level stuff, I'd be about that. I'm like, I'm gonna be historical. Like,
yeah, but then you start seeing all those pictures, and you're just like, did they got the right guy? Because this is some fucked up. This is messed up.
Straight up. Okay, so you know how they're supposed to be sequestered, so they can't know anything about the trial, right? Could you imagine you're sitting there and you get called to be a juror that you're not supposed to know anything about this trial, and it's Jeffrey Dahmer's case? You're sitting there thinking like, oh, it's murder. Okay. And then they pull up the picture, like, what the fuck? Like, you're just, what is happening?
I wonder, like, the guy that beat him to death, or the guys, I wonder if they ever got caught.
Dude, have you ever seen on YouTube that there's a guy, who was it? It was a guy, like, there was a guy who got arrested for cannibalism or something like that. Or maybe it was pedophilia or something. And his inmate, the guy who was sharing his bunkmate, basically murdered him. And then they looked at him, and I love what the bunkmate said. He's like, I'm not a hero. I did it. I killed him. He was talking about things. I told him to be quiet. Didn't shut his mouth. Killed him. I'm not a hero. I did this. Confessed completely to it. It happened. I got blood on my hands. And it's just like, Jesus. Hey, that's rough. When a guy's like, I'm going to be in prison for the rest of my life anyways. I got nothing to lose.
And that's why they put him in with that guy.
Exactly.
I put him in with Tommy. He ain't got nothing to lose.
Tommy will take care of it. Tommy will get that justice back for us. Yeah, that's tough though. But Jeffrey Dahmer went out like that, man. They say he didn't even wince or nothing. Just took it.
What do you do? Like, especially as a juror, man, you're sitting there thinking, you're like, okay, baby, woo, we're going to have a murder trial. And meanwhile, you're just like, your face is next to his face on the Washington Post. All of a sudden, you're like, I was the juror. Because they're like 10 people, like, that's a Jeffrey Dahmer guy. They don't read the article. They're just like, and that's Hunter. Hey, Hunter works out. What? Well, he needs to get fired. This is this guy. That's reprehensible.
Oh, dear. All right. Enough jury duty talk. We can talk about that at the UFAM rally. Of course, you guys are going to be there.
Yep.
Whoop, whoop.
Nice. I've been pumping it up on the podcast. I've been trying to test out the equipment, because at first I was like, yeah, I can do that. They're like, can you go live? No, I was like, yeah, I can go live. So then I had to figure out how I can go live, you know. I'm like, all right, we got to go through speaker. We got to go through this. And I was like, well, I'm not taking this expensive board out there, so I'm going to get a different board. And my wife was like, honey, just take the board. What's going to happen? I was like, I don't know, people could pee on it or something. And she's like, what? The point is, listen to your wife when she tells you things, because I ended up getting all these boards, sending them back because they were crap. And I'm like, all right, I'll just take this board. And yeah, if something happens to it, we'll just buy a new one. Whoop-de-doo. But yeah, so I'm taking the board. And then we got like a speaker. And I got all these mics, and then I had to get a cordless mic because, well, why not? So we can run out and ask the people crazy stuff in the crowd.
Got the gotcha questions.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be the people who lose the bets.
Bigfoot?
Mm-hmm. It'll be the dumbest thing that they'll ever ask people, and it's going to be wonderful, because I only make bets that I know I can win. So I'm going to bet people on the way there, or maybe the night before, and whoever loses the most or whatever will have to ask the questions. And the questions are going to be just ridiculous. And people are like, the fuck is this guy on? Like, this, this is recovery based stuff, right? And then we're like, and then
strongly support like the hallucinogenics for recovery.
Mm-hmm. But like harm reduction for hallucinogenics. Like, this, I'm only doing 2 hits today, man. It's harm reduction. Normally I do 4.
Is the new drips. They're just like, oh, do you want this drip? Like, oh yeah, I can use some saline as soon as they're about to get in. This is DMT, by the way. Whoop! Just gone.
Yeah, I was thinking about that kind of, sort of, this subject of harm reduction when I was in the shower today. And the first time I went to treatment was in California. And they told us all addiction's the same, which I was like, all right. And at that time it was my first time. So I thought drinking I was like, not as bad as those other guys, you know. And then I realized that, no, okay, addiction like that is the same. But they told us sex addiction was the same. What? And then we went to the sex addiction class, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to these people, and they were borderline some Jeffrey Dahmer stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I don't need to be hearing none of this, like with puppies? No, this is not right. But I started thinking about it, in the way that the world's becoming, like you can't really shame people. Like, those people are there's something wrong with their brain, mental
100%.
health issues, big time, like, but yet we shame them still. You know, it's still funny to make fun of them in movies and on podcasts where we talk about jurors. You know, like, but like, when's it going to be like, hey, you can't talk about that guy. He's got a problem. He has sex with animals. Yeah. Gotta be nice to him. That's coming.
It's coming. Oh, I 100% agree. It's definitely coming. There's not a doubt. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to put any time frame on it. Probably next decade or two for sure. But, you know, like that it's already happening in parts of the world. Like there's people getting married to animals and things like that. That's not, there's certain cultures where that's okay. And it's just like, we're all about multiculturalism. So it's not that far of a stretch that it's eventually going to get there.
But what if they're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's fine. You're not going to go to jail for that. But you have to wear this, little A on your chest, or you gotta wear this little star patch on your shoulder here.
Burn them on a cross.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Like this is awfully familiar, something that I heard in history class.
I know.
It's weird.
I'm running for governor this year, guys. So November 3rd, vote for me. Or is it 2nd? Whatever. I'm not really running, but can't wait to find out who our new governor is. So how are things in Lansing with like political? Is everything always political there? Because that's what I always think. I'm like, oh, Lansing, political.
Yes, given the field that we're in.
Man,
not for me.
You guys are. We talked about you guys having the worst PIHP in history of PIHPs, Mid-State Health Network. I'm so sorry, you guys. I feel so bad for you.
Let the record reflect that that's your opinion and not ours, just in case someone's listening.
No, everything's about to go topsy-turvy anyways. Like, it doesn't matter. All the P's are going to be dissolved. They're all probably going into one or some crazy thing like that. But politically, man, it's bizarre. Everybody's got a political opinion. If you're too far from the center anywhere, you are probably going to get shellacked in some way, shape, or form. Like politics, nobody wants to talk about it, and yet everybody's using it as the lens to guide their decisions around Lansing.
You just want to move out of there? Go back to Iowa, Hunter?
Not back to Iowa, no. The only thing I know in Iowa is cornfields, meth, and Slipknot, so I try to stay away from there.
Corey Taylor's cool. What about you, Christian? You ever thought, man, this is just too much? It would be so much nicer to live somewhere else.
Well, I live in Mason, so I'm in like a Lansing suburb, so it's not too bad. Definitely though, like I've been to different countries around the world. I've been able to have some pretty interesting like multicultural experiences and things like that. So I definitely have a weird perspective, but some of this political stuff, man, it's just like, it's getting in the way of hardworking people, and it's getting in the way of good work being done over and over and over again. And the problem is, regardless of how anybody wants to cut it, you know, the truth of the matter is the systems that we've built are completely archaic. They're dying on the vine. The truth of the matter, when we have an employment crisis, which is happening all over the world and all over the country in all different domains, but we have an employment crisis over peer recovery coaches and clinical level therapists and case managers. And it's just like, what do you expect? You expect that somebody's going to be able to go into a field or go and get, you know, a 4 to 6 year degree, have 50 to 100 grand in debt, if not more than that, then hope they coming out here and get, you know, one of these jobs that's going to pay them peanuts. You know, any place worth their salt is basically golden handcuffs. Like, okay pay, fantastic benefits, shit work. Like, nobody wants to do it. And the turnover rate in this field is like 75%, something in there. I mean, it's crazy, man. So it's just like, this field is, if it doesn't make a radical change and make it very quickly, it's going to die, or it's going to end up being absorbed by like mental health.
Well, mental health, it goes hand in hand with mental health anyway.
Oh.
But it's people like us, not to put the pressure on us or anything, that are going to change it. And they're going to need to. And we're going to have to explain it to the younger generation too. Like, hey, look, and I think they kind of get it already too. Nothing against my grandpa, but man, you know, that way it just doesn't work anymore. I have to take a guy on Friday and pick him up from jail and taking him to treatment. That's where he belongs. You know, that's just facts. You know, he doesn't need to be in jail meeting murderers and rapists and bestiality people or cannibals. You know, he needs to be getting treatment. You know, he needs to be learning, and maybe he might not take it all in right that first time or whatever, but at least he'll be making progress. You know, it takes what it takes for someone to finally learn and finally accept, all right, I can't drink. Now, I do believe too, not wanting to go to treatment, I don't know how much is going to sink in. You know, it's got to be something that you want to do. You know, when people are made to go to AA and they just sit there and they go there, they get their slips signed. It's not helping them. They're not moving forward. Their brain's not healing. They're not learning, hey, I can use this meeting to get some shit out of my chest and just, I leave and I feel better. You know, that's what ding dings the brain. Like, hey, I feel better now. Not like, oh, I got to go to the liquor store, you know?
So in Portugal, they launched that like decriminalization of drug use. It's not legalized, but it's decriminalized. And the way they handle cases is they actually have to go before like a board that's separate from any legislation. They go before a board. They would look at the evidence. So they do like some sort of drug assessment for the individual or alcohol assessment or whatever. They would look at that and they would make recommendations based on that. So like you need to go to inpatient treatment or you need to do X, Y, or Z. And actually, if people don't comply with that, separate from like what we have are like drug courts. If people don't comply with those recommendations, they would only face like civil penalties. So they would get like the driver's license revoked, or they would have to do X amount of community service. There's actually no threat of either you're going to jail or you're going to treatment. Give people the recommendations that they think would fit. And they've seen dramatic reductions. So like they use like safe using sites now and needle exchanges, and they had the highest rate of intravenous drug use per capita in that area, whatever they're part of, I don't really know. But they had the highest rates of HIV due to intravenous drug use. They had like the highest rate of addiction, I believe, and a lot of other things that were kind of alarming, but they dropped all those numbers below the average. So it was an interesting model, you know, the way they did it. And I think they also did work incentive programs. So they paid like half of people's wages for 6 months in order to get them back integrated into society so they could build that connection and not face the stigmatization of not only having a substance use disorder, but also having like felony offenses that are going to block them from housing opportunities, block them from work opportunities and things like that.
I think like the good part that we're at is like this, especially during COVID, right, is we're at this intersection of technology that's going to be used more and more rapidly. Like, you know, in the rooms prior to COVID, I knew about in the rooms. It wasn't, you know, that big of a thing. And then COVID hits, right? And in the rooms becomes like the number one source for substance use disorder that people are attending meetings at. And I didn't know this until a couple of days ago, that in the rooms, like it's more than just AA, it's NA, sex addiction, food addiction, all of that stuff. Right. And it's all over the place. And one of the things that, you know, they've been talking about, and it's not a far leap to think about as we continue to kind of progress down this road, is things like virtual reality or Meta or you know, the Neuralink with Elon Musk and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think that we are going to get to a point where drug addiction, in the sense of it being like chemically induced and all that kind of stuff, may almost be obsolete because of things like Neuralink. They're already talking about, there's already programmers that are working on solutions where you get this chip in your brain with Neuralink, you're able to go into the metaverse, but on top of that, you'll be able to induce things like certain chemical reactions in your brain that mimics like hallucinogens and stuff like that, and then able to turn it off almost immediately. And it's like, okay, what do you do at that point? So it's like you're saying that basically at any time I can just trigger alcoholism or like alcohol, never have to do any real harm to my body in the sense of drinking anything. And then I can turn it off when my, you know, family gets home so that I can be, you know, the fine respecting gentleman. Like, we're getting to a weird point, man, that I think in the next, you know, 30, 40 years, who knows what this landscape's going to remotely look like.
Sounds like the beginning to a scary movie that like no one would believe because it's too like unbelievable, but it's like soon to be reality.
It's a Black episode, dude, for sure.
That sounds like a horrible idea, but we'd think about it. I would be like, well, yeah. But I don't know. I would probably just stay away from it. It's like, yeah, I heard skydiving's fun, but I don't do that shit either. So I just don't want to die like that.
Definitely done some deep dive research on this, and it's kind of bizarre. Some of the things that like they're talking about when this link is implemented, you'll be able to essentially, you'll be able to get like a defined body because you can trigger certain things in your, like while you're sleeping, that your muscles are constantly contracting without you thinking about it. So like you're just building up, you know, muscle strength and all that kind of stuff. And taking it all the way to a logical conclusion, right? It's like, okay, so you do that. And then what's the penalty for, you know, drug use anymore or a crime or anything? It's not, you know, we take your driver's license away or, you know, you have to go serve prison time. Instead, it's like, okay, we're going to cut you from your bank account. So you can't buy anything. Like, so you're just essentially going to go into starvation. Like you get in line or this is what's going to happen next. And that's freaky, man.
And that's what Whitmer wants to do to our kids, everybody. And she hates Jesus and babies.
And she ain't fixing the roads, right now,
Yeah, Winfield. Paid for by Winfield and ARC podcast. Lifeboat Addiction Recovery Cast, part of ARC. Not sponsored in any way by MDHHS. Winfield 2022. That sounds like an ad to me, guys. Hates babies, eats people, hates Jesus. And she's going to take your guns. There we go. Let's run that baby on some radio stations. I'm going to do fake ads during their live broadcast.
Just cut out and be like, all right, now a word from our sponsors, mute both of our mics and just go into the most
Whitmer, she's going to take your guns. She's going to make your kids use drugs. Why? Because she's not fixing the roads. It's called the old rope-a-dope.
We don't approve any of that. Like, yes, I do.
I mean, we'll put that at the end too. We don't approve any of this. This is all bullshit.
Just in that quiet, like 1,000 words a second. Like nothing was approved in this podcast by any of the people that were involved.
Definitely not paid for by any recovery grants because we can't get any. Not with any substance without filling out 28,000 pages of reports.
Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on that.
Oh.
Like the threshold right now, especially for like recovery communities, the threshold that's happening right now is insane. It's like, yeah, what's a great antidote to bureaucracy? More bureaucracy and government overreach. Let's do that. That's a great idea. Here's the thing with some of this stuff. It's like, it's unbelievable. It's Trojan horse. That's all it is. Because just like, oh, let's give them the illusion of being able to talk about this. Meanwhile, MDHHS and all these PIHPs and community mental health and all these people are listening on like hot mics, waiting to be like, okay, this is what needs to be said next. And anybody that's leading the meetings are just getting rapid chats from these different government entities saying like, talk about this, say this, do this. I mean, it's messed up. And I've seen it happen a dozen times. It's not like I'm not making anything up for people who are listening to this. Like half of the conversations that are happening, people don't even realize that they're only listening to 50% of what's going on in the actual room. The other 50% is through private Zoom chats and, meetings happening outside of this meeting.
I hate wasting my time, man. This does not help me at all. Like, this just wasted an hour of my time. Some of those meetings are just like, they're just like that. And I was on one last week about housing, and their big thing was let's bash shelters, I guess you could say, or like there are churches that do it too, and shelters that don't allow people to come in when they're high. That's all it was, bashing those people. And I'm like, well, don't you? Because my buddy Tyrone, he was in jail on some trumped up charge. He got out. He's in recovery. He was in recovery before. He's still going good. He's actually a board member of 217 Recovery. And he got out. Well, now he's a felon. He had money, but he couldn't rent a place. So he ended up in a shelter. He said, this is not a place for people trying to be sober. He's like, they're all in the woods getting high, people getting raped, murdered, killed. This is the third person that got killed the other day. And they want to allow everybody, if you're fucked up, you can come in. That's cool. Sure. But don't bash the ones that are doing stuff like, nope, you have to be sober to come in here, because there are people that have fallen on hard times or are in recovery that would like a safe place to stay without seeing some drunk guy coming at them or like, let's not bash those people either. But all they were doing was bashing these places that only allow people who are sober and don't allow people to use. And like the place here in Traverse City, you can come in, check your bottle at the door. They'll give it to you in the morning when you leave or whenever you want to go. Here's your bottle back. But I just say there should be an alternative for that as well. And in Traverse City, there's not. There's not a place where you can go if you're sober or trying to be sober.
At least what I've seen, especially with these most shelter programs, is they're only one of two things. They're either completely underfunded state-ran shelters, or they're religious shelters that have such a high threshold of rules and obstacles for you to be able to actually get into one of those that it's almost laughable to think that anybody could ever get in them. And when that happens, it's like, okay, do you donate money? Because here's the other thing too. Like, there's a lot of people that I know personally that have been in shelter programs. It's like they had the worst, stint of luck that I've ever seen. And it had nothing to do with substance use. It had everything to do with like the economy went south in 2008. The housing bubble popped. They lost everything. They haven't been able to get back up on their feet. Everybody that says like, oh, they need to work their way up. It's like, what are you talking about? Like McDonald's is now just offering $14 an hour. Okay. So they're supposed to live at a shelter, walk to McDonald's because they can hardly afford a bus pass. And then after that, provide food for themselves. Meanwhile, they're having to deal with the court because the court's got involved because they got 3 kids and they're saying that's not a safe place to live. Like, what are you talking about?
Not everybody in there is on drugs or want to be on drugs, but there should be a safe place for families, in this place here in Charter City, it takes families in, and you got to worry about somebody, they're out in the woods smoking meth. Like the drug dealers don't even pull up on the property. They run out through the woods out to the road. And they're making drug deals out there. And I've driven by several times and seen it happening with my own eyes going, are you kidding me? Like, they just don't care. And it's crazy, man. And they're like, oh, yeah, they can stay here. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Not saying anything against that, but let's give them an option for the people who don't want to be around that. And that was my input to that meeting. And then I bounced. I was like, I don't want to hear the rest of the stuff that they're trying to make me. They try to force it on you. This is the standard. This is what we got to do. This is what we got to say. No. I don't say any of that. Like
that's where all the money is, right? Like that just goes back into all the money, and there's somebody on the other end that everybody else isn't privy to, but they're the actual ones making the decisions. Like I was a part of a meeting that from the founding of it, I said, like, we're not going to do this. Why? Because State Department's soaked in this thing. No, the State Department's not soaked in it. I'm like, let me see. And sure as shit, we started going through the name list. It's like, oh, this person worked at the state last year, and this person still works for the state. It's like, what do you think they're doing here? Like all it is a Trojan horse. They're trying to make you co-sign some bullshit because some money is coming in and they want to co-opt your organization to get that money. That's all. They don't care about you. They don't think that what you're doing is terrific. It's like, no, the money's coming in. They need an avenue for them to be able to get it. You just seem to be the person that's most gullible to do it. And they're going to give a percentage to you, sure, but it's going to be crumbs off the table. Meanwhile, they're going to be taking millions and laughing to the bank.
Yep. You're doing all the work and you're going, how did I get stuck with all this work? And now we don't have the funding, but yet we should. And we're not actually doing what we should be doing because we don't have the funding. We can't get through. And that's why it kind of makes me mad when, I see like, oh, they give $3 million to this agency in Southwest Michigan. And I'm like, they haven't done, that was 2 years ago. They haven't done anything.
And
I'm like, give me $3 million. You're going to see some action.
Yeah.
But yet we get told, oh, well, you're too new yet. You got to be around 5 years before you get all that. And it's like, do I scare you or something? Like, do I make like your butt? I don't want to say that. What I'm saying? Does that freak you out that all of a sudden we're going to be doing stuff and you're going to look bad or something, and I don't know. And I just realized
shoot your room.
So it's kind of out of my control as well. It's just, do what I can control and just go from there. And as long as I'm still doing the right things, man, and doing it for the right reason, it'll all work out how it's supposed to, because I used to get like real upset about that kind of thing and just like, and then it's like, what can I control about that situation?
Right. You can't.
No, I can keep on pushing and doing what I do. And, we picked up this, it was actually 2 people from Lansing, got them out of jail. That's a crazy jail. We got to drive through that. And then they shut you in. I was like scared, like, I hope they're not going to run my name.
Oh, yeah,
walk up to the counter. It was pretty freaky, man. Then I gave them my badge that I had just made the night before. Here you go. I gave them my ID. They're like, yeah, we want your badge. I'm like, the one that I just printed myself on my printer. Okay, here you go. I told my wife, I was like, man, badge will get you a lot of places. And she was like, no. I'm like, no, I got a guy out of jail with his badge. Like, come on, like we can start a whole nother thing. I was talking to a woman today from Community Mental Health, and I was telling her about the badge thing, and I was like, I think we're missing something here. Because she was like, yeah, they do the same thing for me. I'll go to whip up my ID, and they're like, I want your badge. And they scan the badge. And I'm like, we could be busting people out of jail, bringing stuff in. Like we'll just go in and be like, hey, just don't worry about what you're wearing. You can just put this badge on. I don't care if it's a green jumpsuit, if it's an orange, put the badge on. We're out of here. Like I got a badge. It would work. I guarantee. I love
the seemingly indifferent police force that just wants to harp you on. They're too busy harping you on, hey, what are you doing? Why are you here? What do you want? Huh? Meanwhile, it's just like, I'm busting people out, but all right. And as long as you're like confident in that fact and you don't move, they're like, all right, you're probably supposed to be here.
I'm with the job security board. We're giving you some more job security here. Hector here's come with me. He's got a badge. He's part of the Force 2.
In case I didn't mention it before, I have a badge. So
the TV show, 48 Hours or whatever. Or no, which one where it's like you got to solve the crime within, is that 24 hours? 48 hours?
First 48.
Yeah, first 48. The camera crew's going to be here any minute, They said at noon.
But doesn't he usually do houses? He does. There's a special episode is going to only air on HBO.
Something new they're trying. So we got badges.
Did I mention that I have a badge?
Yeah, it's right here. HBO. See? scan it. I don't give a shit. I got 8 more. I just printed it off. So
the scan, it's fake. You know, I don't really. I mean, it's a badge.
You can do a lot with the badge, man. Giving some people some bad ideas here. It's an
Throw a picture of Betty White on it.
Canon printer is what you need. Just throwing it out there.
I'll tell you, man. I don't know. I see everything that's happening right now. And I mean, not to be that guy in the room, like there's so many people that are just saying like, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, we're moving in the right direction. We're getting things done. It's like, yeah, no, we're not. I mean, like federally, there's overreach, state level, there's overreach. This is going to become very problematic for a lot of people very quickly. And we're in this really weird place too, where it's like, you know, back in the founding of things like AA, they welcomed, you know, state oversight. They wanted the state to get involved. And then finally the state gets involved and they didn't want the state to get involved. And now like it's kind of swung back around where it's kind of like, we want the state involved, but we really only want your money so that you guys pay us to do the job that we're already doing. And it's like, dude, money comes with strings every time. You know, it doesn't matter where you're getting that money. You're going to have to jump through some hoops. And some of the hoops that are coming out there, I've just seen companies and organizations and people basically sell their souls. It's just like, you know, that's not at all what you guys were doing a year ago. And you guys were making an impact, but now you're doing something else because they're willing to pay you $1 million. It's like, good luck. I mean, there's a reason nobody's done it that way or nobody's been successful that way because it doesn't work. But if you think because you get this 7-figure budget, all of a sudden you're going to be able to make it work, Godspeed, but it ain't going to happen.
I used to get real worked up over it, man, and just keep moving forward with what we're doing here, you know, and people appreciate that. You know, they see what I'm doing and they're just like, wow, you know, like you're doing it for the right reasons. I had a guy from Barron County call me and he was actually the guy that he was a recovery coach and he pulled me to the side before I went to treatment the last time. He was the one who asked me, you know, Corey, what's it going to take? And that's what really got me thinking, like, what is it going to take? You know, like, I wish I knew, man. And he told me to shut up, to think about it on my long ass bus ride, my unsafe bus ride to Northern Michigan. And that's what I did. But he called me and was like, hey man, I need some help. I was like, all right, what's going on? And he's going to start a nonprofit down there, you know, and he's like, oh, well, I want to go the easy route and just do the easy one. I'm like, I was like, when does half-assing it ever got you anywhere, man? I was like, come on, bro, go for the glory. You know, it's like, plus, you know, you can use fiduciary. You can still, you know, collect stuff, just like a little certain percent will go to whoever and not a big deal, man. You can still get, you know, donations and stuff while you're working on your 501c3 paperwork and stuff. But I was like, no, dude, don't half-ass it. You can only get like 10 grand or something stupid. Like, I mean, not to 10 grand is stupid. I would think 10 grand all day, every day. But when I was doing it, I was like, nah, I'm not going to go the easy route. Why would I do that? You know, I want millions and billions of dollars, you know? And so I kind of told him that and he was like, oh, thanks. I didn't realize that. And he was talking to somebody else about something else. I'm like, dude, just get your 501c3, start there. And he's part of an organization. Now I'm not going to say their name because I don't really know the correct way to say it. It's just, but anyway, he doesn't like they're force feeding him. Like, you have to say this, you have to do this, and you have to do this. And you have to believe this, and you have to feel like this. And he's kind of like, nah, man. Like, but again, it's an organization who's getting those millions who were told this is the way we're doing things now because this is politically correct and this is the way we do things. And that's not how it should be going. So they're starting their own thing. And so I'm proud of them for that. But I think it's going to take more people like that. It's going to take more people like us, you know, to actually get in the game and not just sit on the sidelines. So many people told me the things that I couldn't do when I was starting 217 recovery. You know, they were like, oh, you can't do that. Oh, there's no way. You got to have this and you have to do this and you have to. I didn't do any of that because you don't have to do that, you know, but it's people just directing you like, hey, follow the herd. And I'm like, no. The one guy told me, he's like, yeah, it's like, Corey, especially when we first came out, people didn't like me. They probably still don't, but that's for them to work on, you know? Mm-hmm. And one guy told me, it's like, Corey, you like showed up at this field that they're playing a game. He might have said it was softball or something. It's like, you show up at the softball field and you're running out on the field, but you're in a football helmet, you know, like you're at a whole different game, man, you know, and people don't like that, you know? And I was like, yeah, well,
it's not as easy to control you, I think, because that's the thing that I've found is like, when you do get into these different like mechanisms and you do start, you know, quote unquote, playing ball with some of the big wigs and stuff like that, you're controlled immediately, whether you like it or not. They'll hit you with regulations. They'll hit you with Laura coming. They'll hit you with, you can't do that, this, that, and something else. We need to see more of this for you. And when that happens, man, you start to get guided in a way. And I know this because it's happened with my business, right? It's like, you get guided in a way that's like, it's inevitable. You can't you just got to go. And there's not much you can say, because if you do, you built your systems. People are dependent on payroll for it to come, that next Friday. And if you don't play ball with them, all of a sudden people don't get paid, and then you don't have a business anymore.
But yeah, I mean, so what are you saying? I guess was kind of right then, it's like, yeah, I'm still showing up to the field. I'm just not playing your game. We just have to keep pushing forward and just go, no, that's not right. And no, I'm not going to do it that way just because you said that's the way to do it. And this is a much better, more effective, more efficient way. And I'm doing it, and it's crazy the stuff that we'll put up with until we won't, and when people got to lose their jobs, that's on them, and I'm not saying that for you, when what you just said, that has nothing to do with what I'm saying here. I'm talking about people at, let's just say Mid-State Health Network. But if they have to lose their job, then they have to lose their job. If they're not following a contract with the state, they're not following a contract with the state. It's pretty cut and dry. If I had a contract with the state and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, well, things wouldn't work out very well for me, you would assume, right? But why is it different for them then?
There's so many people that I think fail upwards, because that's what I found over and over again. The higher up you get in the echelons, the more money you make. The more money you make, the more likely you are to compromise. The more likely you are to compromise, the more likely that you're going to continue to move up. It's just this vicious circle where it's like, I know people that are failing up, man. They've crashed certain systems. It's not doing well at all. Their statistics are deplorable, and they're getting a promotion. And it's just like, what?
Or is it that it might not even be the people at the head, like the head of Mid-State Health Network might not even know any of this is going on. He thinks, man, we're running a great thing here. Why is this Corey Winfield guy in 217 Recovery always bashing me? Why did they invite me to come out and talk to them? Open seat at the rally. They can come hang out with me. I don't think they want to, but maybe he doesn't even know what's going on. Maybe the people I'm dealing with, and this is what I found out kind of working with the state and talking to people at the state level, is we have high expectations for these people because of their position, because of their pay. In reality, they just work there because McDonald's would not hire them. So it could be one of those things where these people are in a position, they have no idea what they're doing, and they don't want their bosses to know they don't know what they're doing. They're just telling people no, because that's what they were told. No, we don't pay for that. No, well, we don't care if people die. That's not our problem. Our problem is there's too many people calling us today. We spend too much money already, or whatever their little excuses, to where they're not even really paying attention to the problem. And they're just saying, no, no, no. And then when we try to go around them to get to their bosses, they send us to their secretary who acts like their boss. And you're like, wait a minute, you're not even, you're a secretary. Why am I even talking to you? Oh, well, because you got routed to me. Or maybe he was like, maybe because you got routed to me. Her name was Lisa. So I'm assuming it was like that. But maybe that's the situation right there. Maybe these other people are in positions that they shouldn't be in. And that's where I think the guys at the top, or the women at the top, the people at the top, whatever you want to call them, that's where they're failing, is they're not checking. The CEOs, their job isn't to run the day-to-day operations. Their job's to look for future opportunities and to grow and to make something better. They're not always looking over their shoulder going, hey, these people I hired, are they doing their job? A lot of times, man, it's the people the people you hire, this and that. Well, maybe they knew him for 10 years ago. She was great. Well, now she's lazy, or he's lazy. Maybe she was faking her way through that job, or he was faking his way through this other job. It's I don't think these people are qualified. And maybe it's not the people at the top. That's an out for them. But too much, though, in reality, high expectations for these people in these positions, just because they work for the state, just because they work for an agency that works with the state, it doesn't make them intelligent. It doesn't make them know what they're doing. It doesn't make them good people even.
I'll quote, definitely a mentor of mine. And he said, some of the dumbest people I know are doctors. Some of the smartest people I know are the people on the streets. And he would know, he's a CEO. He has his doctorate. He's a very, very intelligent man. But it's one of those things where it's I don't know, man. I think we've built something up for ourselves that I do believe is generally unsustainable. But is it okay if we switch topics, just because I think Hunter is feeling left out?
I'm just sitting over here. You guys are talking about the state level stuff, and I'm like, I teach classes and work with people. That's what I do.
Do you have kid gloves?
No, I don't.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's one important thing. Don't bring the kid gloves in with you.
Yeah. No, I feel like there's a lot of truth to what you guys are saying about the whole, state level entities. I can relate with that quite a bit, the bureaucracy that's behind that. But I found a lot with treatment models, which generally get higher funding than we do. being in the prevention field or peer-based services, they tend to not to have that like common experience. For me anyways, like the drive I have to help people that are suffering, or the drive I have to like help alleviate the problem, is because I went through it myself. You know, I understand a little bit more. I understand the hurt and the hurt that's there and kind of what was needed in my life. So that's where I'm trying to actually help people find that in their own lives, not necessarily push on them. I don't know, as Noah said, I muted myself there for a minute, you know, we're talking, it's like creating jobs for other people, just creating new ways for people to come in, putting new faces to the same old thing that we've been doing or whatever, so money can flow out. But instead of actually creating programs that actually can help people and start to resolve the issue a little bit. So
you think Bigfoot's real?
Possibly. I don't know. You got to think like how many sightings can something have before we start to be like, maybe there's something to this, you know? How many shaky, grainy videos could show up of this thing and it not be real?
I can't even answer that, man. It's in my mind. I never thought about it like that.
The question at hand, why can't we have a high definition video of him? Because Bigfoot doesn't like HD cameras, clearly, you know?
Yeah. Trees are out there, man.
Very real possibility that Bigfoot, in fact, is real. I think that, like, who knows? It wouldn't surprise me if it's some like government conspiracy or cover up. They did some kind of DNA testing or genetic engineering. They accidentally created something, and now Bigfoot's an immortal demigod that just like chills in the forest. And they're just like, we know where he's at. He knows the rules. He's not supposed to go within certain places. And they put up a bunch of fences. Every once in a while, a poor unsuspecting camper goes out there, barely has any bars on his phone, and is taking it on like an Android or something. And just like, oh my God.
This podcast has violated the rules of Governor Whitmer's office. Speaking about issues from the heart and with passion, while not speculating on lies and fake numbers, is the reason this podcast has now ended. Governor Whitmer hates guns, babies, Jesus, vapes, free speech, smooth roads, clean water, clowns, balloons, puppies, kidnapping, fun, cars, abortion, Satan, kittens, love, peace, anti-abortion, anti-smoking signs, apple pie, sunshine, Bigfoot, and everything great about America. 217 Recovery is just playin'. Thanks for listening. To find out more about Lifeboat Addiction Recovery Cast, Google them. To listen to more 217 Recovery podcasts, download the free 217 Recovery app and listen to over 650 episodes. You can also find more at 217recovery.com.